now with more Steny Hoyer, House Minority Whip. Leader Hoyer, good morning. It's good to see you.
Good morning. Good to be with you as always.
What should we do with this? I'm trying to figure out. We did a moratorium on the sales tax stuff for internet companies, and I think you were in favor of that. It was like 2007. Was the idea that that was a time when these were kind of like fledgling companies, and we wanted to let them sort of grow and prosper before taxing them, but that no longer makes sense? Is that your contention?
I think that's pretty accurate, and it's not a question of taxing them, of course. It's simply having them as a retail store, in a community has to collect taxes, and of course they get paid a service fee for that. But what we're trying to do is even the playing field so that an online store, in effect, that you buy from is in equal competition with the store that you can buy in your neighborhood. So I think that's a pretty accurate description of where we're going. Obviously, the Senate overwhelmingly passed it.
Yep.
I hope that we put it on the floor of the House, and I'm confident that if we do, it will pass pretty handily.
Really? Okay, so you figure it would pass.
I think so.
Okay.
If we put it on the floor, though, as Speaker Boehner and Mr. Cantor have not yet said they're going to put it on the floor, I hope they do.
The whole notion of the economy and taxes and everything else, I want to get into it in a specific way, Steny, and that is that we're trying to figure out what to do with the sequester, but where both sides seem to be demagoguing a little. We had that bad jobs report before the last one. Remember the one before that? It was awful. And we all heard that it was the sequester. Then we had this gangbuster jobs report that came out, the most recent one, and we added 50,000 to the prior one to over 3,000. I didn't hear anyone saying, wow, the sequester is really hurting job creation. Just any talk about the sequester was gone with the last jobs report. I guess it didn't hurt that one.
I'm not sure I agree with you that you haven't heard anyone saying the sequester.
It's a good number, though, right? I mean, it was a very good number.
It's a good number, but you and I both know in order to get to where we need to be, we need 300,000 a month for about 2 or 3 years to get us to a place where we want to be. And having said that, it was a good jobs number. The sequester is a drip, 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 not a slam door. And the sequester is going to have a deteriorating effect on the economy over time. It won't be just shutting down government in a dramatic effect, although you saw a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, the FAA had a dramatic effect, and of course the sequester was modified to accommodate that in a certain way. But the numbers were not adjusted.
I'll tell you how, and then what I was leading to was our guest host is one of a number of people that think that one of the real reasons that we've had this a little bit of a swoon here, or at least a slowdown, was not necessarily the cutbacks, but the tax hike, the payroll tax hike, maybe even the tax hike that comes with the Obamacare. I don't know, 4% on certain people, and the high-end tax hikes. Maybe that has something to do with it. That's why I wondered.
Well,
even though the internet sales tax, that would still be levied on consumers. Is this the time to be raising taxes anywhere?
Well, you know, theoretically, although most people don't pay it, when you buy online, you still have an obligation to pay the sales tax in the state in which you're a resident. I don't know that anybody does that.
No, I do that. Congressman Hoyer, I do that. New Jersey has gotten more aggressive with it. You have to sign it off for the last 2 years in your state taxes. And
it's better not to buy on the internet.
I know, it's a total pain. I wish you would just collect it online.
Yeah, there you go. So if you do it, then it's the financial consequence is no different, just who collects it, which is the point you make, and I think that's probably accurate. But to Joe's point, I think, frankly, most economists indicate that the austerity the Europeans imposed slowed their economy.
That was tax hikes, too, though, Steny. That was mostly tax hikes.
It was all tax hikes. There were no spending cuts.
I don't buy the proposition that raising taxes on those making $400,000 or more had any adverse impact.
Well, in Europe, they raised them all over the place, though, and you see what's happening in France. I mean, they went crazy.
Correct. Yeah. And we have not gone crazy, that's for sure. Now, we suspended the payroll tax for a couple of years, but that tax obviously goes to pay the debt of Social Security, and obviously that has to be on a fiscally sustainable path. Frankly, we need to continue to look at that. But I think the real tax hike that was changed substantially was the very wealthy in America, and I don't think it had any effect on the economy at all. Now, I think that the continuing disagreement and failure to reach agreement and to give confidence to the economy, give confidence to businesses, that is evident in Washington, I frankly think that is having a dampening effect on the economy's growth. I think it's unfortunate. As you well know, I'm a big proponent of getting to a big deal over time. That does not mean, and I want to emphasize, that does not mean substantial cuts or increases immediately. The economy is still struggling. We're still at over 7% unemployment. We still need to get the economy moving more robustly than that. But I think if we got an agreement between Republicans and Democrats, passed it, had the president sign it, which got us to a credible path to fiscal sustainability over the next or even 15 years, I think that would have a tremendously positive effect on the economy. I think that's what we ought to do. You see, we've been struggling to do that because the parties are so far apart on how to do that.
Stanley, there's news reports that the House Republicans are seeking, as part of a debt ceiling deal, to pass what people are calling a tactical debt bill to prioritize government debt payments. What do you make of that, and what position does that put the Democrats in?
I think it's not a serious effort, and I think the Democrats are going to be overwhelmingly, if not unanimously, opposed to it. The Senate's not going to take it up. Tony Fratto, who was with the Bush economic team, says it's essentially a joke. It won't work. It's impossible. Others have said it would be a political catastrophe if we tried to do that. Effectively, we've called it the Pay China First bill. Clearly, you want to pay your bondholders, but the federal government has not been a priority borrower. What it said was going to pay all of our debt on time in full. And that's what the United States needs to continue to be, not to prioritize and say, look, we're going to pay our bondholders, China being one of the biggest, but we may not pay our veterans, we may not pay our employees, we may not pay other benefits. We may not pay small businesses, people who are doing business with the federal government. That doesn't make any sense for the wealthiest nation on the face of the earth. I think this prioritization bill is simply a fig leaf for Republicans that are deeply divided on how they want to go forward, as you've seen. I think that this bill is not a serious effort, and that's unfortunate.
Well, I'm going to remember you agree with everything Tony said. He made...
No, I didn't say I agree with everything. I said I agree with him when he said this.
All right. You know, Baucus and Kent, what about...
Got to be very careful with you.
I couldn't believe you said... I know, I couldn't believe you said that. You pick and choose.
Sure, we all do.
We all do, yes.
We do. Tax reform would be nice and part of a big deal, and I see these guys actually pretending that there's a chance. I mean, there's going to be no... There's going to be no rates coming down after you finally got them up. It was so hard to get them up. I don't know how you get anyone to agree with doing anything on that. Either side.
Frank, tax reform conceptually everybody is for, because the tax code is too complicated. It's not as productive as it ought to be. Each item may have some individual merit, but collectively they are not a good system. So everybody theoretically is for tax reform.
Yeah. What about the Bowles-Simpson one? Bowles and Simpson have a new one, Bowles and Simpson 2.0. What do you think of that one?
Well, you know, I just saw a poll this morning in the paper which says that 80+% of the American people think it's a good plan. As you know, I have been a proponent of the Bowles-Simpson approach, the model, not necessarily every individual item, but the model of balanced on revenues, balanced on dealing with entitlements, and balanced on dealing with spending restraints or cuts, depending upon how you want to call them, on both the defense and domestic side of the budget. That's the only way you're going to get to where we need to be for a long-term fiscally sustainable path. So I'm for that. But in terms of tax reform, the Republicans passed a budget, the Ryan budget. In my view, if you took every Democrat out of the House and every Democrat out of the Senate, they could not pass a tax bill consistent with the Ryan budget. It simply was unrealistic.
All right. Congressman, Leader Hoyer, thanks. I saw you at the dinner. Yeah, I don't know what you and Katy Perry have. You know, you couldn't leave her side.
Be careful now. Be careful now.
All right, leader. Thanks. We appreciate it. But we'll see you again soon. All right, bye.
You bet.
It's hard to lead.